Today, we're going to dig into a really fascinating theory, one that pretty much flips an entire industry on its head. It all comes from a book called The General Theory of the Translation Company.
All right, so let's just jump right in with a question that seems, super simple. What does a translation company actually sell? I mean, the obvious answer is translations, right? They sell words. But what if I told you that's not really the product at all? And that brings us to this pretty shocking claim from the book. And honestly, it's the key to understanding a massive global industry that, let's be real, most of us never even think about. So, if the main thing they do isn't language, then what on earth is it?
Okay, to get to that answer, we first have to kind of step into the world these companies operate in. And it's a strange one. It's an industry that's absolutely essential, but at the same time, it's almost completely invisible.
The authors have this brilliant analogy for it. It's a little funny, but it's perfect. They say the translation industry is like toilet paper. Yep. Nobody ever thinks about it until it's not there. It's just this humble, behind-the-scenes service that does all the work and lets its clients take all the credit.
And it's not just invisible. This industry is, well, it's a mess. It's incredibly fragmented. So there's this index, right? It goes from 1 to 10,000 and measures how concentrated an industry is. A high number means a few big companies run everything. The language services industry, it scores a measly 67. The authors have a great word for it. They don't just say it's fragmented. They say it's completely pulverized.
So, in a market that's that chaotic, how does anyone even begin to make sense of it all? Well, you need a map. You need a framework to navigate. And that is exactly what this general theory is.
So let's look at the model the theory gives us. It's a way of looking inside any translation company, and it breaks the whole business down into 3 distinct layers. We're going to build it from the outside in.
Okay, so here are the 3 layers. Think of it like an onion. On the very outside, you've got the market influencers, all the external chaos. Then, one layer in, you have the support activities. That's the internal engine. And right there, at the very heart of it all, you find the core functions. And that is where the real value gets created.
Let's start with that outer layer, market influencers. This is all the stuff from the outside world that every company has to deal with 24/7. New competitors popping up, customers demanding more, new technologies changing the game. It's the whole chaotic ecosystem they're swimming in. All right, moving one layer in, we have the support activities. I like to think of this as the company's engine room. It's HR, finance, IT, and here's the surprise, it's even quality assurance. Now, don't get me wrong, these things are absolutely essential. The business cannot run without them. But, and this is a really critical point, they are not what the customer is actually paying for. They don't directly create the value.
Okay, so this brings us right to the center of the model, to the heart of it. If the outside is all of the external pressure and the middle is all of the internal support, what's left? What is at the absolute core of the business?
So we've already kind of established that language and even quality, they aren't the core functions. So what's left? This brings us back to our first question. What is the actual product being sold here?
And here it is. This is the answer. The theory argues that the true value of a language service provider, an LSP, it all comes down to just 3 things. First, vendor management. That's basically finding and managing talent all over the world. Second, project management, juggling all those super complex workflows. And third, sales. But not just selling, it's really about expert consulting.
This really lays out the shift in thinking perfectly. See, you think you're buying a translation, but you're actually buying management. You think you're paying for a bunch of words, but you're really paying for a process. And you're not just buying a quality check, you're buying high-level expert consulting.
So once you see it this way, through this model, it kind of changes everything, right? You realize the value isn't just in the words themselves. It's in the entire system that delivers those words.
So why does this all matter? I mean, think about it for a second. A big company could just go out and hire translators directly, right? But they don't. Why? Because they pay these LSPs to handle the mind-boggling complexity of it all, managing a global supply chain of freelancers, wrangling dozens of file formats, hitting insane deadlines. The real product they're buying is someone else taking on that massive headache.
There's a quote from the book that just sums this up perfectly. It says, "Bad quality is enough to lose a customer, but good quality isn't enough to keep them." Think about what that means. A bad translation? Yeah, you're fired, no question. But a good translation? That's just the price of entry. That's the bare minimum you expect. Customers stick around, they stay loyal because of the value they get from those core functions we talked about, that seamless project management and that expert guidance.
And that brings us to a final thought. Because this way of thinking, it doesn't just apply to translation companies. It's a lens you can use to look at almost any service industry. So, it's worth asking yourself, what is the complex, messy, frustrating headache that your customers are really paying you to manage for them? Because whatever that is, that's where you'll find the true value.